So were you able to see these slides?
Yes, we are.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I was saying that this process that I was talking about, which starts with this Wonderland and Collab Land and Answer Land and Deep Dive Land and Reflection Land, is a process to build PLCs, which is professional learning communities. And what's very important is that these shared values that we were trying to emphasize throughout and capitalizing on the educators, leaders, this combination makes really the professional learning community. So after like 1 year of working with these educators, we try to set a strategic vision for this community. So we did the survey, we did some semi-structured interviews, focus group discussions to figure out what people need so that we move forward. And what we learned from around a year ago or more than a year ago, that educators wanted us to become a reference to upskill teachers' remote pedagogical skills when it comes to, going back to post-COVID, or to really provide a pathway for teachers to transform their classrooms from being teacher-centered to student-centered. And this is from a micro level, but also they wanted to see transformation on a systemic level. They wanted to transform this narrative about the K-12 education in Lebanon, to contribute to educational curriculum reform on a national level, and to collaborate with the government to drive policy change. So because of this vision, we collaborated with a research center called Center for Lebanese Studies, and we co-created together a program, or actually a project called Manhajna. Manhajna is in Lebanese, it's our curriculum. And in this project, we envision that this project is about democratizing the process of curriculum reform, so that we are able to advocate for policy change that is envisioned and conceived by the education ecosystem in Lebanon. So the idea really started because of this centralized curriculum development, and how curriculum development, when it comes to a national curriculum development, it always happened in closed rooms with experts coming in and telling what the education curriculum should look like for a country, when people have different needs and different communities have different aspirations for themselves. So we wanted to decentralize this process, and we wanted to create a process to decentralize the curriculum development process. So what we did is that we created different spaces across 8 governorates across Lebanon. And these spaces, we had this project journey, which is the process I was talking about. It started by Infoland, which people came together to around more than 1,000 educators came together to think to learn about this project. Then from these 1,000, we had around 600 people came in different spaces, and in the 8 spaces, to share and wonder about their vision on curriculum reform. Then in Collabland, educators co-created together some ways for them to really raise their voice and advocate for how they want to envision the national curriculum. And finally, Answerland was about really to share this and advocate for what they want. And we're currently between stage 3 and 4, by the way. What we learned from this project is that teachers were not, there's this cultural shift when it comes to teachers and how they see themselves and how they position themselves as not only being knowledge givers inside the classrooms, but they really being curriculum developers, having a voice and talking about what they envision when it comes to this national reform. But unfortunately, we had a lot of challenges, and we had a lot of problems when it comes to having the voices of these educators heard by the policymakers, because it felt like the policymakers are on a different planet and what we are doing on another planet, because of their top-down methodology of working development and reforming the education development in the country. So what we are currently doing, we're working on a project called NAFDA. NAFDA means like, let's get everything, like just transform everything. It's like a whole transformation for the country. And we're working with the schools to transform their curriculum and transform their teaching and learning experience. So yeah, so this is where we are now. I hope this makes sense to you. I hope you can connect to your own experience, and I'm happy to hear if you have any questions.
Hi. So thank you for sharing this journey, and it's really inspiring how you started with a small project and then you kept on working on it and enhancing it to make it better. And how for like it's very possible important for the education leaders also to be heard and the students to do something which they can own. So that's a beautiful thing that you are doing. My question is that as far as I've understood that you started with students and then you moved to education leaders, right? So my question is that what made you do that shift, and has it been better? Like, one of the thought is that because education leaders are eventually the people who will impact the students, but is there any other reason that you had, or yeah?
Thanks. So one of the things that we were looking at, actually one interesting thing is Mantara for Change, the organization in India, helped us to rethink our theory of change and moving from Inspiration Garden as a student centered to working on another level of work, which is the Learning Land community, which we started back in late 2019. So one of the main things is that we were looking into how we can scale our impact, and we needed to focus on a stakeholder and work around the stakeholder. And because of we wanted to leverage the motivation of educators. We were assuming that there's a lot of motivation across educators, and there's a huge gap for educators, as I was saying. So their own spaces like teachers' unions and leagues, they don't function as learning spaces, and these spaces have been too much politically rendered. So there is no technical support. They only focus on economic rights. They focus on how their politically affiliated agenda is shaping the work of the union or the league. So it's kind of yeah. So this is mainly it, and I think one of other things as well is my personal interest as well of working with teachers. So I started the garden because I thought that. So I was bullied in the school, and I was I always wanted a safe space, a different learning environment. And this is how I started. And then I became a teacher, and then I realized, oh, there's something wrong with the supporting teachers, and this is how I worked on Learning Land. So it's I think it's two things. One is it starts from you as an education leader, and where you see you can influence more, and where are you inspired most, so that you can inspire others as well. I hope this makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? So there's another question about enabling education leadership, but can you be more precise? This is a super general question. Can you be more precise when it comes to what do you mean by that?
What I actually mean to say is that when we try to educate the leaders, that we need more processes set so that they can educate others well, but it is unsuccessful at times. So what is the way to go about that? How to enable the leaders themselves? How do we educate them better?
Listen, I think this educate them better. There's a power dynamic there, right? So educate them better as if like they are not enough, or they don't know best, or they are not enough again. And the idea of Learning Land and what we are trying to do at Learning Land is to try to create this process that would help educators learn from one another and share their own experiences together. So that this power dynamic becomes a bit less. So there is no a lot of experts coming in and trying to shape this specific experience, but really leveraging on the human capital of the educators. So this shift of there's educators we need to fill their minds with a specific knowledge, like we want to fill the students' minds with specific knowledge. This whole approach to professional learning and professional development should be different. I hope this makes sense to you.
Yes, you're right. Thanks.
Yeah. Any more questions?
I think there's one question in the chat box. As you mentioned that you are helping education leaders to be heard by policymakers, how did that process go for you?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Are you able to hear me, by the way?
Yes, now, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So thanks a lot for the question. I think this is a valuable question. And I was talking during the session that it has been a very hard and challenging process. We're still learning from this Manhajna project. And I was saying that what we have learned, that policymakers are really on a different planet when it comes to what we are envisioning and how we are envisioning the process of development, and completely on a different planet. So we have learned that we should have done much more when it comes to not only engaging educators to come together and think together, but also engaging policymakers in this process early on. So one main learning for us when it comes to engaging policymakers needs to be very, very specific, and it's important to really be meticulous when it comes to engaging with policymakers, and it's important to align with them early on any project that you want to work with them or you want to influence policymaking early on in the process. But the issue in Lebanon is that corruption is crazy, and even those who are already in the policymaking process, this is one main key area we have learned, that even those who are already part of the policymaking process, were not really taken into consideration because of the corruption and because of how the government want to, involve a UN agency because what they are bringing in and how they are bringing it in, and really not capitalizing on this whole effort that we have been doing, or even capitalizing on other efforts, local efforts to influence policy making. Yeah. So I'm gonna go to the next question. So what has been your experience of sustaining parents' involvement? Okay, so a very interesting question. I think it's also about creating a safe learning environment. The same safe learning environment with the students need to be developed with the parents. We realized that when we created the safe learning environment for parents were coming not only to talk about challenges they are facing with their kids, but even their own personal challenges with their parents themselves. So it was quite interesting to see how transforming a space to be safe not only for students but also for parents can do a lot of change. And you will always have parents who are not interested, or who don't want to take the extra mile, or who don't want to be involved. And this is completely fine. I think what's important when it comes to working with parents is really leveraging on those who are really interested and they really want to work and do something about their work, about them being parents. It's indeed an important point there to be taken into consideration. It's influenced most of the folks. Yeah, cool. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I'm really happy that you are here and engaging, and you are interested in the conversation. And I hope that there are more spaces like these. I'm gonna so you can find me on LinkedIn, Fahd Jamaleddine.